I'm here, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Chit Chat with FreekBass. It looks a little bit different tonight, doesn't it? You know why? Because I'm just not here all by my lonesome tonight. Why am I not here by my lonesome tonight? Well, some people dream of Christmas. Some people dream of Hanukkah. Some people dream of the Tooth Fairy. I dream of superhero movies, and especially Zack Snyder superhero movies. And we got probably the best one ever. We'll talk about it here in a second. And I didn't want to sit here and just talk about it all by myself. By the way, this is FreekBass. You're tuned into Saturday Night Chit Chat with FreekBass. I've got an amazing panel of people with me here this evening. Before we get started, I want to say just a couple little notes here real quick. First off, that I want to thank people at nextlight.com for being a sponsor of the show, and Wendigo Tea. You will find their names in there. Go check them out too. Thank you to Jam-Bass Color Red, of course. And I'll let you know on next week's Saturday Night Chit Chat show. I usually have a musician with me here every week. Last week I had Mr. Mike Gordon from Fish. Next week I have the amazing Mr. George Porter Jr. from the Meters is going to be joining me next week, so I'm super excited about that. But right now I'm excited about one thing, and that one thing is Zack Snyder's Justice League. We want you to get into the conversation here too. So I'll bring you, look, there's Angie. Hello, Angie. Hello, Brenda. We got all kinds of people here. So please jump in the conversation and jump on here with us as soon as you can. So let me bring everybody on. So let me start with the, when I had the idea for the show, when I found out this was going to be released, I was like, I want to do something. I don't want to just sit here and talk about it myself. I want to bring a panel of musicians, podcasters, writers, everything we could. The very first person on my mind, he probably was so sick of me like tweeting him like, okay, I get it. But he's one of the most insightful people on the subject of superheroes. I could just hear him talk for hours about it. And he plays a little bit of guitar too. You might have heard of him from that too as well. Everybody welcome Mr. Vernon Reid there. Yeah. All right, there's Vernon. Okay. Hi. And then also there's a couple people that play with me occasionally on here and there. Sammi and I are going to actually release a single together here in just a couple weeks. Greg and Sammi are both in Turkuaz, and so they are also in our family of musicians. Let's give it up for Sammi and Greg.
Hello.
Yes,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So Sammi, I see you got the Batman shirt on. What kind of t-shirt do you have on? Greg, who is that?
It's Justice League. It's all the
bucks. Buddy, you went full-fledged. Great.
Awesome. Superman, we got Batman, we got Flash going in, Red Lantern, everyone.
Amazing. Another man who became our Aquaman for the week too, who we talked quite a bit on Twitter too about our love for 1978 Christopher Reeve's Superman and how important the red trunks are. We'll talk about maybe that a little bit too. But everybody give it up for San Francisco Chronicle writer, Mr. Zaki Hasan. Hello, Zaki.
Woo! Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, man, so glad you were here. And this, every panel's got to have a Batman. And there's only one person I know that could fill those shoes. My good friend, also another bass player from the Bob Cesca show and also Salon.com. Please give it up for Mr. Bob Cesca.
Hey, Freak. Hey. It's good to see everybody.
It is good. And
I got bass player. That was nice.
Hey. Everybody, hopefully everybody's a bass player a little bit. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. I want to let everybody that's watching the show and you're like, wait a minute, we're missing Superman. And, well, it's just like the Justice League movie. Where's Superman at? If you saw the poster we did. So Victor Wooten, him and his brothers have a last minute engagement they had to do at a college gig. So Victor jumped on the Zoom with me a couple hours ago. He was like, FreekBass, I really want to be a part of this. So I've got him. I'm going to fly him in here. He already gave some thoughts on the movie. So a little bit later on the show, towards the end of the show, Victor Wooten will be with us too. He's going to give his thoughts on Justice League. But let's get us started here first off. So let's start with the obvious question. I guess we'll just go around. Vernon, I introduced you first. How about some initial thoughts? What'd you think? Did you hear me, Vernon? Oh, I don't know if he can hear me. Can everybody else hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey, Vernon, I don't know if you can hear. Oh, no, that's weird. I can't hear. For some reason, he can't. Let's try it again.
Oh.
Hold on. There we go. Hey, Vernon. Hello? I don't know if Vernon knows that he
Can
can't
you hear me?
hear.
Vernon, are you there?
Hello, Vernon. We're not hearing you, Vernon.
Dark Side is already starting some shit.
That's right. There's
Yeah.
already some craziness going on. I'll hit Vernon here in a little bit. While we're getting him all dialed in, how about Bob? What do you think of everything?
Well, if you've got some time, we may be here until Labor Day because I have lots of thoughts
Go
about
for it.
this.
That's what this is all about.
I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And it's not just because I so despise the theatrical cut of the movie. I thought that, oh my God, if, you know, they have a nickname for people who want to take their names off of a film, but they can't really take their name off. So they use a pseudonym called Alan Smithy. I'm sure Zaki is well aware of the Alan Smithy pseudonym. If I had been working on the theatrical cut of Justice League, I never would have put my name on it. It was such a disaster. But you fast forward a few years and all kinds of strange turns of events in terms of not only just the film itself and the people who, you know, love Zack Snyder's movies and went through this whole effort to try to get it released, but also world events as well. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with this too.
Come back,
There you go. Now
Yeah,
we can hear. Oh, I think we got Vernon back. Vernon,
I
you
heard
there?
Vernon. Yeah. I don't think he can hear us though.
Sounds like you can't hear us. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Yeah, but anyway, so I'm blown away by the whole thing. Not just in terms of you know, the critical reception. It's great to see that the critics are finally seeing, you know, what Zack Snyder can really do here, but also the movie itself is so wonderful on so many different levels. I don't even know where to begin. I think the main thing is it is, I think, a vindication for Zack Snyder's approach to the DC universe. It is, I think, something that is going to reach beyond his core fans and reach beyond the people who normally watch these movies. And I think a lot of people will be taking a second look.
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm sorry, Bob. We can hear you.
I completely lost all audio for a second.
Okay. Can you hear us now?
I totally, yeah.
Okay, great. Good. Go ahead, Bob. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just saying it was I think it's a real vindication for Zack Snyder. It's an incredible film that I think is going to reach beyond his fan base and reach beyond the people who maybe were skeptical about the first couple of movies that he made for this, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, which I love both of those movies. And so going in, what I really wanted to see was the continuation of that continuity from those first two films because I love them so much. And of course, this absolutely delivered on that. And of course, any movie that Zack Snyder was going to put out as a follow-up to Batman v Superman was going to be continue that continuity. But I was really concerned when I first saw the theatrical cut that we may not ever see that. And that was disappointing for me. And I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't really like the theatrical cut so much, because it wasn't really in keeping with those first two movies. And this continued on almost seamlessly from Batman v Superman into this and heightened the stakes, and the character development was exceptional. And I don't see, you know, when I was watching the movie, I was kind of thinking in terms of what Joss Whedon may have seen when he saw the initial cut and what he was thinking, oh my God, or whether it's Jeff Johns or someone else, what do we take out of this to cut it down to 2 hours? And I don't know how they did it. I mean, I don't know how, the decision-making that must have gone into what to remove and what to replace. There were so many things in that movie. I can't believe they took out. I can't believe they looked at some of those scenes and went, we can strip that out and no problem. I don't see how they could have possibly brought themselves to do that. It would have been an impossible task for me to approach that cut and to think, oh my God, I can take out all of these things and add all of this other stuff and not really lose any sleep over it. There's so many things in this film that I can't believe that we may have never seen it were it not for this fan effort to get the movie out there and for HBO Max to come along and all these different circumstances to occur. So I'm just absolutely blown away. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. I got to watch it a couple more times to really condense my thoughts into something that's sensible.
Vernon, I know you're like, God, FreekBass again, but man, I had to get you on the show because I love listening to you talk about superheroes. You got such a, I could just hear you talk about this genre forever and ever. So what were your initial impressions after seeing the movie?
It's a much better film than the theatrically released film.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's certain arcs that, like I liked how impactful the Flash was. Because I like the CW Flash series.
Yeah.
And this Flash is so different. His character is, this Barry Allen is completely different. And he, for me, he was a bit of a challenge because they chose to make him kind of a comic book nerd himself. So it was kind of, a bit meta for me. And in a way, this cut really redeemed that character for me because I found him incredibly annoying in the theatrical release.
Yeah.
He was a little too much gosh gee whiz.
Yeah, for sure.
And the helmet
around the Batcave.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Also a bit challenging. But I thought his character stepped up a great deal. There were certain things that I still question about it. Like one thing is just I was thinking about Jeremy Irons as Alfred versus Michael Caine as Alfred.
Yeah. And
the thing that I like about Michael Caine as Alfred, like he's Bruce Wayne's butler, but he's nobody's manservant. If you get what I mean. Like you could totally feel Michael Caine teaching Bruce Wayne how to fight. You can totally see Michael Caine not taking any of his spoiled kid. He wouldn't have taken any of that bullshit from him. You felt that, and Jeremy Irons is as Alfred is a little weird. Like their relationship kind of was. There was something about it. I don't know if I get this.
Yeah.
Because
the way he was kind of patronizing to him, like the way Jeremy Irons.
Well, not was patronizing, but if Ben Affleck in the theatrical cut, it's funny. It's like it almost like Ben Affleck is a very different Bruce Wayne than any of the other Bruce Waynes we've seen, and he's kind of an angry Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
like he's really angry at the idea of Superman, and the way he plays against Alfred. Don't let me take you down the nerd hole, but it's just that the relationship just there's something about it. But all that to say, I enjoyed this film a lot more than the theatrical. A lot of the theatrical release didn't make sense to me, and it was like, what is happening? Why is that? Huh? And it made a lot more sense to me. This film.
Great. Zaki Hasan,
Hey.
how have you been, by the way? You been good?
Hanging in there. No complaints.
Good. I enjoyed all your thoughts and review. I kind of checked out a couple of them. So what were your initial thoughts of the film?
Well, I by way of backstory, I should say that I was a huge fan of Man of Steel when it came out. I was much less sold on Batman versus Superman, and I credit Bob actually with nudging me along to greater appreciation for it. I still, I have my issues with some of the things, some of the execution, but I have a much greater appreciation for the intention and then the arc of the story when we include Justice League in there. So I really sincerely, Bob is one of the main people to really point me towards some of those things. So I revisited Man of Steel and the BVS Ultimate Edition early this week, which I hadn't seen it the whole way through since 2016. But I wanted to view the new cut of Justice League with that specific context, and I think when you view all three of them sequentially, you're like, this is one man's vision. It's one story, and it's just as valid an expression of this filmmaker as, to me, the Lord of the Rings films are an expression of Peter Jackson's interpretation of Tolkien. I think Zack Snyder's interpretation is just as valid as its own thing, or for that matter, Christopher Nolan's trilogy is just as valid an interpretation of his, relationship with those characters. So I really liked it as one long arc. And I say this as somebody who, by the way, didn't mind the theatrical cut of Justice League as kind of it's sort of it's like a live action version of the animated show, but it's, what I said in my review still stands, which is that I didn't miss watching the Snyder cut. I didn't miss any of the Whedon stuff that was cut out, but everything that was added in, I was like, why would you cut that? And to me, that's
Right.
the ultimate expression of it just works. And truthfully, I saw it Wednesday night and I started watching it again today, which if you would have told me I'd be rewatching a 4-hour movie within 48 hours, that wasn't on my agenda, but I was just like, I want to see this again. And so I'm like halfway through it again. So he did. And again, I was skeptic. Number one, I was like, he should, if it's available and it can be done, it should be released, because I think he screwed over by the studio. But I was skeptical, and I've proven completely wrong. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's amazing. All right, and Greg, Sammy, either order. You guys tell us what were your thoughts. I know Greg, you sent me a text right when you were starting to jump into it, I think yesterday. And it was cool because you did a little briefer too. Didn't you tell me you watched like Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman as well? Yeah.
Yeah, we went right through it. The days leading up, we watched each movie. I've been a huge Man of Steel fan. I mean, I thought that movie was incredible. It reminded me of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies kind of style, like good origin and the build through. I mean, amazing villain.
I think Nolan was wasn't he? Well, I know he's one of the writers for Man of Steel, wasn't he? Zaki, you probably know that, don't you? Wasn't he one of the writers on that movie? I think Nolan was.
He was the executive producer, and he got it sort of. He got it going, but once they brought on Zack Snyder, he took a step back, and it became became a Snyder joint. Yeah.
Got it. Go ahead.
We even watched the theatrical cut as well before, because we really wanted to see the differences, and we hadn't watched the theatrical cut since it came out.
Yeah.
So similarly, what you're saying is like, oh, we can't believe they cut that out for the theatrical. We were impressed that scenes that we really enjoyed in the theatrical cut, when we saw them again in the Snyder cut, we're like, oh, that's why we really loved that scene. Like, that was a really great moment, and it was something that, that was something that they had used of Snyder's material, and we're like, oh, that's really cool. So
yeah,
that side of it was really interesting to see.
I also feel like it made those scenes so much more substantial, and it was just like meatier, and I mean, obviously, yes, it's 4 hours long, so they had a lot more time to explain everything, but like, I mean, it was really like the difference between night and day. It was just meatier, and it just went into so much more detail, and I liked how much darker it was.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoyed that. You know?
Toning down some of the hokey comedic stuff to be like more real lines. It feels like, oh yeah, that's what Batman would say, not some like one-off line. That was really cool. It just felt better.
How did everybody feel about, and I feel anybody can chime in, but how did everybody, I mean, I'm a fanatical Joker fan, and I always thought Leto was going to be a great Joker anyway. That additional scene he filmed at the end, the nightmare sequence. I mean, you could put that little scene for me on a loop for the next 20 hours and I'd be good with it. I love that. And especially how it tied into the nightmare sequence from Batman versus Superman. How did everybody have any thoughts on that sequence?
The fascinating thing I think about that sequence is obviously not only the existence of it and the content of it, but the very fact that Zack Snyder felt the need to put that in there, because I think he was thinking as he was going through the reshoots over the past year, or the new footage, I should say, over the past year, he was thinking, maybe this is my last chance with these characters, with this story arc. So I want to get a scene in there with Joker and Batman. And of course, he has to put it in the continuity of the film and so on. But what's fascinating about that is I think he's not done. I think after the success of this movie, I would be shocked if Warner Brothers and DC didn't say, you know what, he's got the plans already for Justice League 2 and 3. Let him finish this storyline with these characters while he still can. And I think so the whole intention of putting that Joker scene at the end to get Batman and Joker together, he may have several more opportunities to put Batman and Joker together. And I think this was not only an end cap on the movie, but a setup for more things to come, which I think is a very clever way to do it. It's not only a clever thing to do in terms of storytelling, but it's a clever thing to do in terms of the studio politics and trying to get more of these stories told. So yeah, it was a great little addition there at the end. I'm curious. I would love to ask Zack Snyder why it wasn't a mid-credit scene, because it seems like, you know, right at the end when you see when you see the shirt rip with Superman right at the very end and he flies off and we fade to black, you would think, well, maybe that's a good place for the credits to come up. But then we go into this additional story, Martian Manhunter's in there and so on. And so it could have been in that spot, or it could have been a mid-credit scene. It would have worked, I think, in either place.
What do you think, Vernon? What do you think of that, you know, that ending nightmare sequence? Oh, we're missing your audio again.
It's just quiet.
You're there, but you're super, super quiet.
Yeah, he said I think there's something wrong with his Bluetooth, he said.
Oh, it's Bluetooth. Yeah, okay, got it.
Bluetooth.
Got it. Okay. Well, Zaki, let me go to you. What do you think of the nightmare sequence?
You know, I think even if we let's and I agree with Bob that
Hi.
You're back in. You're back in. Yes, we can. Yes.
Except I can't hear you. So
oh no!
Oh no!
Having one of these moments again.
Oh my goodness! I try to sign off and sign on again. That seemed to work last time.
I'm gonna have to go and come back, I think.
Okay, continue on, Zaki.
Yeah, I agree with Bob that my gut says that this probably isn't the end of the road for this version of this universe. But even if it is, I like Snyder's stated intent, which is, you know, essentially he's like, it would have been a shame to never see this Batman on screen with this Joker again. And you say, like, yeah, I mean, like or dislike Jared Leto as a Joker, I liked him even from Suicide Squad. That absolutely would have been a shame, you know. And it's sort of like you know, on the Marvel side of things, where you've got Tony Stark and his arch enemy in the comic books is the Mandarin, and we're never going to see them face to face. Which, like, that's one of those things where you're like, well, that's a shame, you know. And to me, that's like this. Well, these two guys, they should at least have one scene together, and if nothing else, we got the one scene, so that's a good thing.
Yep. Sammy, Greg, what do you think of that nightmare sequence?
It was very, very cool, and I loved seeing, you know, Jared as the Joker again, because you know, and I love Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, but again, sort of like all of the different Batmans, like, even though they're different actors, they're still all Batman. So even this was a different actor playing the Joker. It just worked, and I loved seeing, you know, Ben Affleck with this Joker. I thought it was very, very interesting seeing that again.
Greg?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I thought. I mean, the dialogue was obviously pretty insane. The stuff that Joker got a little raunchy there, but it was really fun to see that. I agree with the fact though that, like, I would love to see where they can go with all of those epilogue ending scenes there, because it's like, if they didn't do that, it would be like, it's done, and then they could have kind of just like tied it up a bow and then like be done with it. Where I feel like, maybe he did want to see those characters together, but also he was probably like, let me just put it in there and see what happens, because like all the fans now are like, all right, well, what's next? Where are they going?
Right, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
Like, what is actually going to happen? It gives them the chance to do that.
Yeah. Is Vernon, are you with us?
Can you hear me? I'm back.
Again. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have mixed about the Joker, Jared Leto's Joker. It was when it turned out to be a dream, that kind of pissed me off. Honestly, I was like, no.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was kind of interesting when they went to Arkham Asylum and Joker wasn't seen at Arkham, so it felt a little disjointed to put him in there. I thought the scene was pretty fun, but you know, it was kind of like, are they talking about, did they create alternate timelines? Did the mother box split reality? You know, I was kind of going, okay, what exactly is happening here?
Right.
Isn't that the dude that Lex Luthor sent after? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was that was very disconcerting.
Well, I forget
and I also
who said it,
felt
but
that it should have
someone
been a credit
mentioned.
sequence.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sammy. What are you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, like you said, with the different timelines. I forget who said it, but maybe it was the Joker. Something about like, oh, in this timeline, like I don't remember.
Multiverse. I think he actually used the word multiverse. I'm pretty sure that he used the word multiverse in it. Yeah.
So they did talk about like splitting timelines, which I thought was very interesting.
I just I mean, the main thing, you know, there's obviously we all know that there's that relationship between Batman and the Joker. And I really felt, I mean, obviously we saw it pretty heavily in The Dark Knight with the interrogation scene between Heath Ledger and Christian Bale. But this one, Leto was just so, I mean, you know, it's almost like a husband and wife that have been married for years and years. He knew exactly what buttons to put. He's like, Leto's like, you can tell me all that you're going to kill me. Well, he's like, whatever, you know, I've heard this all before. But what the thing that I thought, and you could see it really got that Batman too, is the fact that he was like, you know, you want all these people to sacrifice for you, but you're not willing to die. I thought that line was just like, you could tell that almost stopped him in his tracks right there, you know. So the best line
is he says, "I'm your best friend."
Right.
And
there's truth to that.
You know what I mean? And that part of it was very arresting. It was a great bit of acting on both of their parts, and it almost felt like they were trying to throw in a bit of the Killing Joke, except there was a sort of a joke. No, you almost had me there, but then the thing that was great about the Killing Joke is that Batman actually laughs, and in this thing, when the Joker says "you almost had me there," and Bruce didn't. There was a slightly different reaction that would have made the fact that they were really in this twisted relationship, and it didn't quite land to me.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say: keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
Right. There's definitely going on there. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, besides that ending scene, and again, you know, like I said, I'm a junkie for the Joker. I mean, up here, right, there's everywhere you look in my place, there's like Jokers everywhere. I think it's crazy.
Within arm's reach.
Yeah,
anywhere. Yeah, they're always near me. But the one thing for me that really was so powerful, the two characters that I almost, if I had to choose who the all-stars of the film were Cyborg and the Flash. Mm-hmm. Because they were almost like side characters in the theatrical, or you know, in the 2017 release, especially Cyborg. I mean, there's a scene there, the scene when he starts discovering his powers, and he watches that lady struggling to make her bills and all that kind of stuff. I mean, and then like afterwards to be on the street after he just gave this woman $100,000, and then you have that couple kind of like freak out to see him walk by, you know, and it was just like, just the humanity of his character. I mean, you know, I don't know who knows about this, and you know, I'm sure Bob and Zach, you know about this, and probably Vernon too, about all the drama that happened with, I guess might still be going on with Warner Brothers with Ray Fisher, which is a shame, but you know, I totally get it even more now. I mean, I kind of did before, but it's like, my gosh, I mean, it's like, you know, his character. I mean, does anyone want to talk about Cyborg at all?
One of the things that was really interesting about his relationship with his father, was very, very fraught relationship.
Yep.
It was really interesting when the extent of his powers were revealed to him.
Yeah.
because the extent of his powers really put a moral obligation. It was almost like he was given Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Like you can, you know, you can surveil anyone, and you can make yourself rich. He put all this stuff on his son, and it kind of made it really. I really felt when he crushed the tape recorder, it was kind of like he was. It felt like, man, I'm really mad at you. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Bob? What'd you think about Cyborg and the development of the character in this movie versus, well, just, you know, even if I don't even really care if you talk about the Whedon, you know, to me the Whedon version doesn't even exist really in my mind anymore.
Yeah,
but like,
I agree. Yeah.
But you know, why even watch it again? But just in terms of just his character, just in general, I mean, he was the heart of the movie, really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and he had the best line of the movie too, which was toward the end. It was during the scene in Russia, and he said, "I'm not broken and I'm not alone." And I think that was the entire thrust of the movie. I mean, if you were to condense the entire idea of this film down to one line, it was that line spoken by Cyborg. It was a brilliantly written line and a perfect line, not only for, in the micro sense, the content of the film, the storytelling of the film, but also for the broader effort with suicide prevention and so on. So there's a whole inspirational aspect to this film that you don't really think, when you think of Zack Snyder movies, you don't really think in terms of, oh, this makes me feel good as I walk out of it. It makes me feel like this means something bigger than just superheroes punching each other. There's some deeper meaning for our lives personally, and it goes beyond the usual tropes too. We usually hear superhero movies, the duality of your personality and how to use your power responsibly and so on, all the various lessons that we get in a lot of these comic book movies. But this one had a much deeper movie. I think maybe deeper than just about any comic book movie that has been released over the past, during this sort of, I don't know what you would call it, golden age of the past 10, 15 years. And that was it. Cyborg really embodied that. And it's a goddamn shame that he was treated so poorly during the reshoots on the theatrical version. And there was so much turmoil. And now they seem to be pulling this gaslighting thing on him by saying, oh, well, none of this happened. We didn't see anything wrong. Nothing to see here. Move on. And they've written him out of the Flash movie. And he was supposed to be one of the main characters in the Flash movie.
I know. I keep hoping, with obviously everybody's having the same feeling about him. I keep crossing my fingers, like I'm sure everybody is, that he still might end up in the in the
well,
movie.
yeah, I would be perfectly happy if he was a character who was exclusive to the Snyderverse. If that became the thing and he was in Justice League 2, 3, maybe Snyder does his own standalone movie with Cyborg and the Flash. Maybe that, again, we've got this. One of the best things Warner Brothers did with this entire universe is to create the idea of the multiverse as a way to sort of one up the Marvel movies. Let's do this thing
I'm
where
everything. I'm going to have to jump. I'm a Marvel guy. I'm a general.
Oh, I'm not criticizing Marvel. I'm not I assure you, I love the Marvel universe. It's just, it's a different thing.
I will say this, right? One of the things about Zack Snyder that's a little frustrating for me is that taking Man of Steel is great, really great. Like, he took a character that could be really bland because he's just a good guy, and he made a character study of a moody guy who's really struggling with this emergence, that what's happening, the fact that he's an orphan and that he has an earthling family that he also loves very deeply. And my frustration with Man of Steel was the fight at the very end. And my frustration was that you built this character who was made to care about humans, and then basically in the final scene, he engages in complete wanton destruction, and without like.
Oh. We got about 99% of that, Vernon. At the very end, you cut out. Very end. But we got the gist of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
I have to shut. I have a Bluetooth speaker that's taking control. I have like a hat.
Oh, I see. I see. It's
Onto his
grabbing it.
Bluetooth speaker.
And I left to shut it off. And I'm gonna unplug it now. Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
Robots.
Zaki,
Watch out,
Zaki, what's your
Cyborgs
feeling on
taking
this
the
whole
microphone.
cyborg the movie and and just cyborg in general, just from this film?
Well, so one thing I'll say is just on a personal fan level, I'm old fashioned and say, well, Cyborg's part of the Teen Titans, darn it. So whenever they put him in the league, like even when they did that in the New 52, that bugged me. That said, Ray Fisher has been very outspoken all this time about his experience on the film, and on one level, you view that with a certain amount of distance, and you're like, oh well, yeah, he's at least part of this. I'm sure he's upset that he wasn't in the movie more, and then you watch the movie, and you're like, well, geez, everyone should be upset about this because they chopped out 90% of his role in the film and expected him to be grateful that he was left in, right? I mean, this is like Thin Red Line, where Adrian Brody thought he was the lead,
Right?
and then he's told during the press, the junket, they're like, "Who are you in the movie?" That's what this is like. Ray Fisher is the beating heart of this entire movie, and they chop the guts out of it, and it is baffling on about 8 different levels because to me, every scene he's in, every time we see him in that Gotham jacket and he's just kind of wandering through the scenery, the sadness that we see in his face. I mean, he's like walking tragedy. And to Bob's point, everything we see of that character in the movie builds up to that line at the end. Like, you needed it. And so the idea that the decision was made after Snyder cut out, where they just be like, yeah, we don't need it. And let's add a thing at the end where his dad's alive and he's happy. Like, dude, what are you doing? What are you guys doing?
Right. Yep. Well, Sammy and Greg, what do you think of the cyborg character in the movie, just in general?
I mean, like all you guys said, it was like he was just so much more present in the Zack Snyder one. And like we said from the beginning, it's like now watching the Zack Snyder one, it's like, how could you cut that out? How could you cut all of that out?
Yeah.
And it just, and I think Bob said about like, that line he says at the end, he's like, I'm not alone, and I'm not broken. Yeah. And just how, like sad he is, and just like, like mental health, and how he's like, he overcomes that. And it's just like such like a powerful moment, and that was cut out of the theatrical one. And it's like, I feel like it's just a shame. It's just a shame. So
on top of Ray Fisher, of course, his incredible performance, though, I just want to give a shout out Joe Morton, I believe, right, is his name, the one who plays his father. I mean, my goodness, he is just so good. Yeah, so good. I mean, so powerful.
Yeah, and I remember him going all the way back to Terminator 2. He plays he played Miles Bennett Dyson in Terminator 2. This is another great role. He's
just the father of AI. That's his screen persona. AI guy. Yeah.
AI dad.
AI dad. Exactly.
Are you there, Vernon?
No voice.
Vernon was just in the middle of taking me to school about Marvel, and I was hoping to hear the rest of that.
I want to hear this Marvel versus DC situation. Yeah, we don't hear you.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think. Well, if I can pick up on that thread about the Warner Brothers embracing the multiverse and Bob's earlier point. I think to Bob's point, yeah, I mean, I think that's what you do in a situation like this when you have this many characters, this many incarnations of these characters. DC DC film found itself in a position where it was competing against itself. So you have Christian Bale come up, people like he's no Michael Keaton. You got Ben Affleck coming, people like he's no Christian Bale. And that's not a situation Marvel has to deal with as much, although a little bit of that with Spider-Man. And so I think the best approach is they got this Flash movie. They're like, hey, we got Keaton Batman in here, we got Affleck Batman in here. It all counts. And that's truthfully, I mean, that's an approach that the comic books have done for a while now. You know, that's Grant Morrison, his whole thing, you know, because DC keeps reading every couple of years, and Grant Morrison's approach is, you know what, it's everything matters, everything counts. And I think that's the smartest way to approach this movie stuff.
Yeah.
Because it gets everybody, hopefully it gets everybody off each other's throats a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, plus you can
There he is, yay!
There he is.
All right, let's continue this Marvel DC fight.
oh
fight,
yeah.
fight.
Well, you know, okay. So the
Just joking.
well, the thing is, unfortunately, there's a lot, you know, because we get into partisanship at all times with everything: Mac versus PC, Canon versus Nikon, Fender versus Gibson. You know what I mean? And Fender and Gibson both make great guitars. You know what I mean? And there are all kind of other guitar companies that make great guitars. You know, I love the DC characters. I grew up with them, of course. You know, but you know, in my childhood, you know, particularly with this film, there's a point of unity, and that point of unity is Jack Kirby. All that Fourth World stuff, Dark Side, Steppenwolf, those are all Jack Kirby creations. And in a way, when I think about the Fourth World thing, it's also characters like Orion. There's characters like Mr. Miracle. You know what I mean? That are part of the world that is dark side and all of that. And Desaad, there's a whole bunch, the black race. There's a whole bunch of characters that have been completely cut out. That were the creations of Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby started over at Marvel. You know what I mean? And he left Marvel because Stan Lee was screwing him over, which is a whole other story for a whole other time.
Yeah.
But there's room for both. I mean, I mean, you know, what happened in the Avengers movies was epic. But this is a wonderful story. So that's my position on that.
That's just the thing. I mean, my argument all along in defense of Zack Snyder's movies, or Zack Snyder's specific approach to the DC universe, is that it doesn't have to be Marvel. Marvel has its own style and its own look and its own storytelling. Right. And what I loved about Zack Snyder is he started down his own path that didn't involve trying to copy that. He wasn't trying to, DC wasn't initially trying to knock off the Marvel style. Now, after a while, after Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and some of the critical reception of that, I think DC felt the need, well, we need to do action comedy now, which is, you know, that's where you get the theatrical cut of Justice League. That's where you get a movie like Shazam, which I thought was great as a film. It was fun. Wasn't the Zack Snyder style, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, that's just the thing. None of these movies have to be a certain thing. And what I like is I like when where there's a popular trend going on in filmmaking, and it could be anything, mafia movies or whatever. And then someone comes along and says, well, you know, we can do that kind of storytelling, but we can do it in a little different way. We don't have to constantly be doing DC versions of Marvel movies. And that's what I love about Zack Snyder's approach. Even the selection of Zack Snyder to helm Man of Steel, and then that became the seed that grew the DC universe and on into this latest movie. It's a singular approach that sets it apart from the others, which again, you can have now in the DC universe, you can have everything, because everything is now, as I was saying before, everything is now on the table. So you can have DC movies that are sort of in that action comedy style, but then you can also have these grittier, darker, bigger, more epic Zack Snyder movies that maybe exist on HBO Max as an ongoing thing. And so that's, I think, the most brilliant thing that DC could come up with was this idea of, well, Keaton's on the table. I mean, there's even been rumors about, I know we had Linda Carter in the Wonder Woman 84 movie. I don't think she wasn't Wonder Woman, but she was in it. Yeah. So you can now draw from this entire history of DC films that goes back to 1978 or whatever it was, and maybe not all the way back to Burt Ward and Adam West, but who knows? It's the multiverse. Who cares?
I will defend Adam West Batman to my dying breath. But anyway, I will give DC credit for, you know, I think one thing that gave them the gravitas was Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, was a real breakthrough. Was a real breakthrough, and she's fantastic in this film. You know, she makes a character that people were wondering, well, how's that going to work? And she brings the idea of a warrior Amazon. She puts flesh on the bones, and she's a very impactful character in this film. So I definitely give DC credit, for that. Like the fact that they had a Wonder Woman movie before there was a Black Widow. There should have been a Black Widow movie years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this Black Widow movie, of course, the pandemic happened. But for me, it was like, she was a character that's in all of these different films. And how does she not get her solo movie after all this time? And DC was first, with a very powerful female character up front.
One of my favorite scenes was when they bring Superman back from the dead, and he doesn't know who he is yet, and she is trying to lasso him and control him, and she calls him Kal-El instead of Clark Kent, instead of Superman, and it was just so humanizing. It was like, oh wait, they're humans, but they're superheroes, and I loved that choice of calling him Kal-El.
Yeah, that was we were sitting on the couch like, ooh, that gave us chills to hear her say it to him. It was like, oh wow, that was really. It's like a one short moment, but it was like, oh, that felt so good, and she delivered it so nice,
Yeah.
The one thing we haven't really talked too much about yet, too, which I think was, again, if we're comparing it to against 2017, but even if you're not, how much better the villains were in this. Steppenwolf. Yeah. He was like a three-dimensional character.
The armor was always moving, and that was. Yeah,
I don't mean the physical. Yeah, he looked a million times better. Yeah, but I'm talking about this in terms of his motivation, and I almost felt sorry for him a couple of times because you could just tell he was just, he was like, okay, I almost got this world conquered. Well, good, you got to get 50,000 more. It's like, dude,
it's sort of like a minion,
Yeah.
Didn't have that in.
They trashed him at the end, even as he was laying on the ground at their feet. Yeah. I told you he wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
I told you he would fail. He's like, you're right. She's like, man.
Yeah, Desaad was a fantastic character.
Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah,
Desaad was, because he's kind of like the underbridge. Like they kind of set it up so you had a a triple tier of villainy. Right, and Desaad was like, "Yeah, man, that's you get the other box yet?"
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean? Oh, you got you got two. Where's the third box, bro?
Right.
Yeah.
And he was fumbling, I'm gonna get it.
Right. Yeah, he was.
He was scared. He was scared.
Well, and the idea that Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. That makes Darkseid so much more terrifying. The idea that he's scared of his own nephew. That gives you a window into that particular pecking order,
Yeah.
I'm not much of a. I know Vernon. I know you are big time, Bob. I think you probably are too, and Zaki. In the comic books, is that kind of the dynamic too with Steph? I know Darkseid's obviously huge in the comics, but is there that kind of dynamic kind of happening there too? Did he draw it from that?
Well, all the characters from Apocalypse have these interlocking relationships, and Desaad is an even darker character in the original Fourth World Jack Kirby thing, because he feeds off of the pain of others. That's part of his that's part of his things. He's like, in fact, he's such a sadist that even Darkseid is kind of disgusted with him because of the way he feeds off of other creatures' pain.
Right.
Darkseid is also a very he's a very magistral kind of character. You know, he's in the comic book. In this one, he's kind of like more of a brute.
Yeah.
In the way he's realized in this iteration, but the dark side of the comics is kind of almost like you always have to have like the dark brooding villain in comics.
Sure.
In a way, he's very much like a Doctor Doom on a level, or a Thanos. He's very heavy, but also very thoughtful. That's the other thing about Darkseid. He's very thoughtful in his villainy, and he's kind of more a conquering brute and less of an intellectual. But in the way he's written, he's kind of he thinks about the dark things that he's doing in a great deal. At the end, when he says, you know, gather the armada, we're going to go back to the old way. That's a bit of the kind of magistral darkness.
Yep. How did everybody like the chapter? Like, you know, since it being a two-prong. We'll start with you, Sammi and Greg. You know, first off, how did the 4-hour runtime feel to you? And within that, did you like how they did the chapters? You know, how he had kind of divided up in chapters the way he did.
I enjoyed the chapters, and again, like, because it was so like meaty, it didn't feel long at all.
Yeah.
You know, the story just flowed so nicely. There was no lulls, but there wasn't, you know, too much action, not enough action. It was just like really like straight, constant throughout. And I wasn't bored, and it did not feel like 4 hours at all.
And there's too many times where you see a movie that is good and then it ends and you're like, oh, just give me like a little bit more, you know, and this like, it kind of, it kept pulling you in throughout. And I thought that was great. I have no problem with the long. It's like, how often do every once in a while you sit down and you watch a bunch of TV? It's like, people are like, oh, it's so long. It's like, it is super long. Like, for someone that doesn't watch stuff or like sit down and binge a show or something, it's like that. I can understand how that would be a little more of a problem, but it's like, I liked it. And of course, they could have done it as a series. Each chapter could have been like, and then here's the next episode. Like, they could have easily done that too, but I didn't mind it being a long movie. No problem.
Yeah.
What about you, Zaki? Did the runtime bother you?
No, not at all. And in fact, you know, I marathoned the whole thing earlier in the week, and I watched it with my 3 older boys, so 14, 12, and 10, and they were 100% on board for all of it. You know, so I think, you know, there is that critique of like, oh, like kids can't watch it, and I'm like, well, okay, there's some blood and a couple F-bombs. I don't think there's anything that gratuitous more than what you'd see in like a Lord of the Rings movie. And to the point about the length, I mean, if you take, again, going back to Marvel, if you take Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, put it together, you're looking at about 5.5 hours. And I know people who have no problem going through those either in one shot or you know, you space it out. I like the critique of the length is really silly to me, because it's like, all right, well then hit pause and go take a walk and then come back and finish it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go to the theater. You don't have to go to the theater to watch it. It's in your home. Like, that to me is people looking for something to complain about, truly. Mm-hmm. And so just cycling back to the little chapter breaks, that's Snyder making it easy for you. He's like, fine, you don't want to watch it all in one sitting? Here you go. Here's where you hit pause.
Right.
Truly, like the stuff people complain about, I don't get it.
You know what? It's a movie for if you're a comic book movie fan, it's fine. If you're not a comic book movie fan, you can complain about the length because it's a long time to sit down and watch a movie. But if you're a fan of the form, it was great. You know what I mean? So the other thing is, I don't think it would have worked. I liked the chapters because the chapters made it feel like almost like a year, like a year-end special. It made it feel almost like the whole thing felt like a graphic novel with chapters.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have worked as a series. It felt part of it felt actually really good to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Smith had a good point too about the aspect ratio. And you were mentioning, Vernon, the idea of doing chapters in a graphic novel. Well, there's something else that's kind of borrowed from graphic novels, borrowed from comic books, which is Kevin Smith said to Zack Snyder the other night during their red carpet thing that Zack Snyder works in splash pages. So the 133 by 1 or 4 by 3 aspect ratio for this movie, which is jarring to some people, and like Zaki, the people who are looking for things to complain about, they're complaining about the aspect ratio. But it's actually, if you look at graphic novels and comic books, that's kind of the format. It's kind of that taller format and especially when it comes to splash pages. I thought that was a really interesting observation that Kevin Smith had about that. And drawing it into the comic book world.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Totally.
Did anybody here, I'm sorry, I had one more question I was going to ask everybody. So to me, the one thing that of all the question marks I had between the first and second version of the movie, the one scene that never did make sense to me at all, the scene when Superman's out in the out in the field with his mom and with Lois. Great scene, obviously, pretty straight ahead, nothing, I mean, it was a fit. Why in the world did Josh Whedon reshoot that scene? There's like two different lines. And for what they got with it, with the embarrassingly bad, photoshopped or whatever technology to get rid of the, I just don't get it. I mean, it almost seemed like when you see that, it's like, it almost feels like sabotage. It's
ego. It's hubris and ego on Joss Whedon's part. I can do this better than Zach did because Zach is a loser and his last two films sucked. And so I'm Joss Whedon. I'm the mighty Avengers guy, and I'm going to come in and fix all of this. And I guarantee you that was his attitude going in. If it was unspoken, fine. But I think that's why. That's the answer to your question, Freak. I think he just wanted to show up Zack Snyder, and it's been a bad couple of months for Joss Whedon, and I think seeing the reviews of this movie are making his life a little bit more miserable, which is fine with me.
All right, final question, everybody, because we're about the hour mark, and you know me, I could do this for the next 3 or 4 hours talking about this, but and I want to get Victor to come on and give his thoughts too quickly, but do you guys the way this movie all began, for anybody that's watching the show that doesn't know why we're talking about this movie and why I wanted to do a show about it, because it started all with fans, and it all started with them with this, the word got out there was an alternative cut, this release the Snyder cut hashtag started, and it just kept gaining momentum, and then with HBO Max and streaming, that everything did happen. But does everybody, let's start with you on this, Zaki, do you think that, you see the one that's the big one, that's the next you see all the time now, the release the Ayer cut. I mean, are we going to see a David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, do you think? Or do you think this was just like an anomaly? Or do you think we're going to see more of this type of thing now with streaming?
I would have said it was likely before this. I would say after this weekend, it's inevitable. It's Thanos style. It is inevitable. It is going to, you will... and if it does not happen, if it's not announced within the next 6 months, you can call me out. But I'm virtually certain it's going to happen.
Specifically the Ayer cut.
And it should happen. Because he went through the same crap that Snyder went through to some extent in terms of behind the scenes interference. So he's said repeatedly, he's like, there's another version of this movie. So there's a whole subplot of the Joker that was cut out. So I think we are absolutely going to see it.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you guys? What do you think, Vernon? You think? I mean, besides the Ayer cut, we're talking about the Suicide alternative cut. But do you think that whether it be other movies, I mean, this obviously shows the strength of fans getting behind something. It shows the strength of obviously social media. I mean, do you think this is do you think this is kind of a one or two off, or do you think this is a trend what we're seeing?
Well, I mean, it has to be put in the context that Snyder had to leave the movie because of a personal tragedy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now I think that this is going to be successful. I mean, I don't know that the other release of this cut and the that cut, are they the level of filmmaker of a Zack Snyder to justify it? Or is it just going to be just a trend because, okay, that's a happening thing now? I mean, I think that the fact that the fans got together, it was organic. In other words, this situation was really organic.
Right.
And the idea of it becoming a shtick is like, well, we'll see if it works. Was this going to work as well as this did? Don't know.
Right. Any thoughts on that? Oh, go ahead, Sammi.
I was just going to say, I think this is definitely like the door opening to something like this. And, like Zaki said, I think it's inevitable, especially just like with COVID and all of us having to be inside and like, movie theaters are shut down. I think people are also, trying to come up with content, and this is, I think, a really amazing way. Like fans are like, I want to see the Zack Snyder cut, let's do this. And I think this is definitely like, okay, like this worked, let's come up with, let's see some other stuff, let's do a cut of this, do a cut of that, like and we can see it in our own homes. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't know enough backstory on Suicide Squad, like the underworkings, to understand like what happened there. But at least with this, it was like pretty up front. It was like Zack Snyder had terrible things happen, and then they came in with someone else and they released the movie, and everyone was just like, "What did we just watch? Like, what was this?" And then it was like, "Oh, there's another cut. Like his idea is still out there," and everyone's like, "Yes, let's do that." This was specifically that. So if there are other cases where that is the case, then this definitely opens that door, And I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
if it's a possibility.
I do have one last question. I know I kind of lied a little bit.
Last question.
A last question, because I'm just curious, and this is kind of more towards everybody really. Zaki, I always think of him being a writer that he might have a little scoop or something like that for us, but. Are we going to see Cavill again? I mean, is this it for him? Was this his swan song?
He's a great Superman. I love him.
I know.
One thing I've said, I say this repeatedly on social media. I'm like, I feel like Henry Cavill was chiseled out of marble to play Superman.
Yeah.
So it would be an absolute shame to never see him again. And I won't say never, because we're seeing Michael Keaton back as Batman. Who the hell would have predicted that?
What?
2 years ago, right?
Wait. What is happening?
I don't know if Vernon knows that. Go ahead, Zaki.
Yeah, in the Flash movie, Michael Keaton will be reprising his role as Batman, as an older Batman Beyond style Bruce Wayne. Hey, we just made some news for Vernon. That's nice. So I don't think we're gonna have to wait 30 years. I think Cavill will be back. I don't know if he will headline a movie, because I know that they're doing. J.J. Abrams is producing something that Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing, but I strongly suspect that they're keeping their cards close to the chest. I do think in some form we will see Henry Cavill back in the suit. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Snyderverse. That's the great aspect of having the multiverse now, because you can have the Snyder movies existing on their own prong of the multiverse, and you can bring back Henry Cavill as many times as you want, and it still fits within that continuity. And meanwhile, J.J. Abrams can bring in a new Superman on the other prong of the multiverse, the theatrical prong, and everything is working out. Everyone's happy. I think that's a great way to do it. I think this is all very fortuitous. Actually, going back to your previous question, Freak, I think what's happened with Warner Brothers and DC is a lot of panic decisions. Like, the reason Suicide Squad was such a mess was because they panicked about Batman v Superman. And the reason Batman v Superman, the theatrical cut, was not as well received as it could have been, was because they panicked over Man of Steel, and they had Zack Snyder cut Batman v Superman, cut a lot of the important stuff out of it.
Right.
And so Warner Brothers is in this constant kind of tripping over its own feet, trying to make these decisions. And a lot of the things that we're seeing happening right now are still a consequence of some of those earlier decisions, especially with what happened with Suicide Squad is they saw the reception of Batman v Superman, and they said, oh my God, we need to do something now about Suicide Squad, which is coming out in a couple of months. So what they had is one of the trailer companies I think the company that did the production studio that did the first trailer, they had those people come in and re-edit the movie.
Oh,
So the actual theatrical cut of Suicide Squad, that's why it's kind of edited like a trailer with all of those needle drops on the rock songs and everything.
Right.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's what happened. And it was, again, it's all a bad reaction to something that came before it. And what Warner Brothers, I think, will hopefully learn from Justice League is maybe with guys like Zack Snyder, we don't interfere so much, because he was really right about this Justice League thing. So let's let him go and do his thing. It was a real victory. I think the big picture, the top line of all of this is massive victory for creative integrity. And that's the thing. Even if you hate Zack Snyder's movies, you have to applaud the fact that he was able to see his vision through, which never, ever happens, or so very, very seldom happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was even saying that they didn't really jump in too much, but then when HBO Max was like, how about these few things? He was just like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to keep doing my thing. Yeah. They were like, okay.
Yeah. In fact, Warner Brothers gave him notes on this cut of Justice League, and he said he didn't do any of them.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't do
them. Great. I love that.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, hey, I can't thank everybody here. I'm going to bring Victor out here in a second, but I can't thank everybody so much for spending a little bit of your Saturday night. Bob, I know you just watched it for the first time today. I saw a couple of your little tweets where you were just seeing it, and I thank you for squeezing us in on top of your long. So you made a 4-hour movie, a 5 or 6 hour movie without including us in there.
I've already started it again. I've watched it. I'm starting to watch it for a second time here on my computer. So
hey, I'm probably going to do the same thing afterwards too. Yeah. Hey. Let me just one more time. Let me introduce everybody out here. So we obviously got the amazing Mr. Vernon Reid. Everybody, thank you for Vernon for being a part of tonight's discussion.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, so much. And then Mr. Bob Cesca, find him. Bob, Twitter at Bob Cesca, right on Twitter. Was Bob the lowercase? What? You tell me.
It's all very complicated, Freak. Yes. My Twitter handle is terrible. It's the worst Twitter handle in the history of Twitter handles. It's got an underscore in it. That's all you need to know. There's an underscore in my Twitter handle. It's terrible. You can find me on Instagram, though, at the Bob Cesca. So thank you.
Okay, good. Great. Awesome. And, of course, Zaki Hasan. And Zaki, you're find you on Twitter, obviously, too. You're hanging there a lot. And Zaki's Corner, right, on Facebook?
That's right.
All right. And then Sammy and Greg, we're going to see you in Cincinnati next. Sammy and Greg, actually, they tour with Turkuaz. They're actually playing their first show. Guess where? Cincinnati, Ohio. Which
Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
First show in over a year.
Over a year. Yeah.
Because you guys are you guys are right outside of Queens, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not too far, probably from you. You're in Brooklyn, right, Vernon?
No, I'm in Staten Island.
Oh, you're in Staten Island.
Nice.
Okay.
Shaolin, where it ain't no sin.
Yeah, nice. Right on. Well, thank you all so much. I'm gonna bring Victor on here. You guys are welcome to sign off. And
pleasure hanging with you guys.
It was so nice. This was so much fun.
Good to chat.
Yeah,
everybody.
It's so great meeting you guys.
Yeah, we'll do this with a Marvel movie sometime soon too as well. See where that goes.
I live for the
baby.
All righty. All right. Thanks everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vernon. Thank you. All right. Well, here we go. That was amazing. Wow. I just can't even believe this. This is so incredible. I could just sit here and talk about it. Hello, Tim. All right. We got somebody over here from Twitter. Say hello, Tim. Thank you for the people that are watching on Twitter tonight. Really means a lot. So as I told you, you're like, you probably saw in our graphic that Victor, first off, everybody that hung out with us tonight, thank you so much for being a part of this. And it's been awesome. I can actually still see Greg and Sammy there. No one else can, but I can. It's kind of cool. This is a wild little thing. But like I said, Victor was super excited about being on the show, and he wasn't able to make it here. So we got together on the phone or a little Zoom call a little bit earlier today. So I'm going to before we get off here and sign off, for those who've been waiting to see what Victor Wooten thought about Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'm going to give that to you right now. It might be a little technical craziness, but I think I can do it. Here we go. 1 second. Let's see if I can get it going. Let's do that. Oop, let's try it again here. 1 second. There he is. Share. There he is. And here we go. All right. And, we couldn't do Saturday Night Chit Chat on Justice League without having the Superman.
I'm totally blown away. I really had no idea what I was getting into.
Sure.
You know, I appreciate you alerting me to that this movie was even available.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough that I was, you know, I had all the stuff on at home set up on TV ready to watch. And my kids and I just sat down yesterday and wow, you know, the thing that struck me first is, you know, just about all movies are now highly shot and done.
Right.
But this thing just is so beautiful.
Right, right.
Just the shots and the way that they're mixing the camera, you know, the real cameras with animation that you can't even tell it's animated, that kind of stuff. I love that fusion of technology where you don't know what's real and what's not. To me, that's almost like real life. You don't know what's real and what's not. But I love it. The storyline's got some nice twist in it. Even, you know, the way it starts. Now, every movie starts with this huge opening scene.
Sure.
And I just suggest people to pay attention in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very, very important in the beginning. And now, did you see the original, like the 2017 Justice League, the pre-Zack Snyder one?
I did.
Okay, good. So you're seeing there's a big, big difference in tone, and, you know, they did a whole new soundtrack for, you know, music score and everything for this one, you know?
Right. Yeah, you can tell that Zack Snyder has a different vision for it. And sometimes when you know that someone's coming in with their own vision, you don't know how true to the story they're going to be or how it's going to work. And I don't claim to be an expert on the storyline or anything.
Sure.
But man, this was very, very cool. It wasn't too difficult to follow, but you do have to pay attention.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that got me so much about it, I thought was amazing. It was a fan-driven. This happened because of the fans. It just, you know, it's the world we're in right now. They started with the release the Snyder Cut hashtag. It caught fire. The actress started tweeting it. And then when HBO Max, now we have so many more mediums with streaming, you know, which even applies to, you know, what we do in our life too. We're being musicians, more platforms to get art out onto. And, you know, who would have thought a few years ago that we'd see a 4-hour superhero movie? You know what I mean?
4 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours, man. So the fans drove this thing.
Yeah. It was all basically, there was a rumor that he had done a cut, you know, before he left. And so this hashtag started and everybody's like, oh, this is cool. Maybe 10 or 15 years from now, we might see something. And then it just kept catching fire. Then next thing you know, Ben Affleck's, you know, sending it out, and Gal Gadot. And this one day, I think it was last year, it really just like it trended like for 2 days on Twitter. And I guess HBO Max got wind of it, and they're like, you know, hey, let's do it. And they shot additional scenes on it too as well. And it's really good to see any artist, whether it be a musician, you know, filmmaker, get to do their vision the way that they see it. You know, I mean, imagine how it'd be cool was if like your record label came up and said, hey, why don't you go and redo this record? You know exactly how you want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know, hats off to the fans.
Yeah.
To you know, fans know that somebody is listening to them.
Yeah.
And that they do have power, you know, and interactive power. The power, you know, your voice can make changes. I like that. I really do.
Let me ask you this, and we'll keep this short because I know you got a lot of places to go. So what you know, from what you've seen, which character in this version's kind of has spoke to you? You know, Batman, Cyborg, you know, Flash, you know, which one's kind of speaking to you so much so far?
You know, well, I mean, there's a character named Victor, so
yeah. Oh, right. Of course, right, yeah.
You know, I'm kind of attached to that character, of course.
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, all the characters are special.
Yeah.
You know, little funny, you know, Flash dude that is fast. You know, he's you know, he's comical, and you know, one of the movies I missed. What was the movie I missed? I think I missed Aquaman movie. I didn't get to see that one yet.
Yeah.
So that was nice to get to catch up with him a little bit in there.
He's also a bass player. You know, Momoa was a bass player too.
I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, I think he was on maybe a couple months ago on Bass Player Magazine cover. Yeah.
Oh man, I missed that. I missed that. Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, to me, it's hard to pick a favorite, but you know, with the character, what his name is Victor, I had to pay close attention to him. You know, and I am really attracted to characters who have to beat the odds a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like who have troubles, and they kind of don't even want to be a superhero.
Right.
They just kind of found themselves in there, so they're gonna make the most of it.
Yeah.
You can't not be a Batman fan. You know, you grow up with Batman.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not down on Batman, but Batman, I love it. Well, I won't try to give it away at all. But you know, Batman's main superpower is he's got a lot of money.
Right.
That's his main that's a superpower I would love to have.
Yeah.
You know, the cool thing is that he's doing good things with it.
Right.
But and his money came from his parents dying and stuff. So he's also had some adverse things happen in his life.
Yep.
But you know, when I'm going back to the characters who like they lose their family. They don't even want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
But something drives them to do good with it. I'm really attracted to that.
Yeah, I think that's what for me with all the comic book characters, superhero characters, almost like what it is when you're a musician growing up. It's a little bit. You always feel a little bit of an outcast on society. You know, you're just not sure where to fit in, I guess, is the best thing. You know. Right. And I think that's why they identify. That's why when I had the idea for the show and the fact that it was a fan-driven movie. It said we got to get some musicians on because we all kind of feel like this sometimes, you know.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we can totally relate. But we all, as musicians, we all have superpowers.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll take that further. I say, as humans, we all have a superpower. You know, we all have an individual fingerprint that means we're special.
Yeah.
We have something nobody else has. We got our own power.
Yeah.
And many of us don't figure out what that is. And some of us kind of have a dream of what it is, but are afraid to go for it. And I like these movies because it helps me know that against all odds, I have something valuable, and I call it a superpower, and we should use it. The world needs it because there's only one of us. Now together we form a whole league, Justice League, right? That's what a band is.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. But we gotta recognize who we are, and then we band with others, and we help others recognize who they are, and then the power is unstoppable. And music definitely shows that, and so does this movie.
There you go. That's the quote right. That's the money quote right there. Zach's got to hire you as his publicist on this thing, man. Yeah. Well, Victor, man, thanks so much for stopping by. You know, I mean, everybody, like I said, as soon as I was kind of had the idea for the show, I was like, I gotta call Vic because he gets this whole thing. So I really appreciate you taking a little time. I know it's a busy Saturday for you, but thanks for stopping by quickly and letting everybody on the show get your thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, Zach, man, you did it, and so did you, Freak, man. Thank you for including me.
Oh, of course.
Love to all the other superheroes that are on this panel with you, and all the other ones that are watching. It's time for us to, live up to our capabilities. The world needs us. As you can see, the world needs everybody. It needs all of us. We got to band together and make things better for the next generation.
That is right. All right, Vic, you take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon, man.
All right. Take care, man.
Wow. I couldn't say it better myself right there. That is just incredible. Thank you so much, Mr. Victor Wooten. Thank you to Sammy. Thank you to Greg. Thank you to Bob. Thank you, Vernon. Thank you, Zaki. Just an amazing show. Can't thank you all so much for coming out. I'm a little bit loud there. I apologize about that. And want to let you know next Saturday night, as I said at the beginning of the show, we got Mr. the Amazing, the Legendary, Mr. George Porter Jr. from the Meters will be my guest next week. That's Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time here on Saturday Night Chit Chat. Thank you all so much for spending your time. If you haven't watched it yet, watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's so good. I'm going to probably go up and make a pot of coffee and settle down for another 4 hours. So I thank you all so much for joining me here this week. And again, make sure you also thank you to our sponsors, nextlight.com, and also Wendigo Tea. We appreciate you all so much. And thank you to Jam Bass and Color Red, too, as well, for getting us through. We had a couple of technical difficulties at the beginning of the show, but we seem to make it through it. So appreciate y'all, and I will see you this week. I'll see you Wednesday night Bass Talk at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Facebook page. Love y'all. See you soon. Bye-bye. We'll bring Sammi and Greg back on. Yay! Bye, everybody.